Welcome back to the deep dive.
Okay, you've given us quite a pile of sources here, and honestly, it reads like this sprawling, nightmarish story that all kicks off because a woman was digging potatoes.
It sounds almost mundane at first, doesn't it? But yeah, that's the start. Andrea Walters, born 1971, finds this old red metal box.
And inside, diaries. But not just any diaries.
No, diaries detailing a life completely alien to hers. And the crucial thing right off the bat is the lab tests. The paper, the ink, authenticity confirmed, mid-20th century.
So right away, we know this isn't just a story she made up. The physical evidence is real, which makes what happens next, well, much harder to dismiss.
Exactly. And what happens next is the catalyst. She's driving near Gallows Point, could be 2001, maybe 2008. The sources are a bit vague on the exact year there.
Right. And she sees something impossible.
Totally impossible. A shadowy bulk, that's the description, surrounded by this haze of tiny violet sparks. Then her car crashes.
And just like that, she's gone, ripped out of her time, and thrown somewhere else entirely. She wakes up in a hospital, completely confused. The feeling is instantly wrong.
How so? What's the immediate sense of wrongness?
Well, first, there's just the physical sensation, labored breathing. But then the details start hitting. Everyone's calling her Mrs. Walters, which isn't her married name.
Okay, weird.
And then the nurse looking after her is named Linnea.
Wait a minute. Linnea? That's her daughter's name, isn't it? From her original time.
Exactly. Her own daughter's name. So right there, this isn't just random confusion. It feels pointed, like a clue or a warning.
That's incredibly unsettling.
Yeah,
A coincidence that specific, right at the moment of displacement.
Precisely. It hints that maybe this isn't accidental. Then there are other things. She sees daffodils blooming outside.
But it's October in the diary entry, right? Or autumn, anyway. Daffodils mean spring.
Exactly. The seasons are wrong. The nurses' uniforms look seriously old-fashioned, like something out of a period drama with these big white bows.
So the whole atmosphere is just off.
Yeah, and slow, deliberately paced, almost like it's staged, you know?
Okay, this is where it shifts, I think. Because she tries to explain who she is, right? She tells them she's from London on holiday.
She does. But the staff, particularly Dr. Reed, they don't react like she's just confused from the accident. They react like they know what's happening.
They know about time displacement.
It seems so. Reed confronts her about the birth date she wrote down, 1971. He doesn't dismiss it as impossible. He uses it against her.
And this leads to that absolutely chilling line.
The line that basically defines her new reality, he says, "Mrs. Walters, for someone who has yet to be born, you have no rights."
Wow, so not you're delusional, but you exist outside our legal framework because you're from the future.
Exactly. It's a confirmation that the authorities in 1939 are aware of this phenomenon and have protocols, essentially, to manage and suppress people like her. She's a temporal anomaly.
An illegal object in their time. That changes everything. It implies she didn't just stumble into the past by accident.
It really does. It suggests the past was in some way ready for her, or at least ready for the possibility of her.
So she's eventually discharged. And now she has to actually live in 1939 London. What's that like, according to the diaries?
Jarring, deeply unsettling. One of the first things she notes is the soundscape, or rather, the lack of it.
What do you mean?
The absence of modern noise. No phone bleeps, no sirens in the distance, no cars with thumping music. She calls the atmosphere extremely alien because it's just quiet in a way she's not used to.
But replaced by other sensations, I guess.
Oh, definitely. The pervasive smell of coal smoke hangs heavy in the air everywhere in London. And then there's the very physical discomfort of the era.
You're talking about the clothes and personal stuff.
Yes, the sources go into detail here. The bra is described as monstrous. The corset is scratchy. The shoes are tight and painful. It's like the clothes themselves are a constant physical reminder that she doesn't belong.
And the practicalities, like hygiene.
That too. Managing menstruation with the belts and napkins at the time is described as difficult and uncomfortable. It's these really visceral daily reminders of her displacement.
It grounds the experience in something really relatable, despite the sci-fi element. But she does find someone, right? A friend.
Yes, briefly. A young woman named Davina takes her in. Davina seems kind, curious, but also completely bewildered by Andrea.
Why bewildered?
Because Andrea acts and speaks like someone from the future. Davina is shocked by her casual swearing, calling it vulgar, but even more by her ideas.
Like what?
Andrea talks about a future where privacy is not so important, which baffles Davina. She mentions women carrying phones with cameras in them. Davina just can't picture it.
It's a massive cultural gap. And does Andrea try to prove she's from the future?
She does by talking about the war. She mentions Dunkirk, the bombings, the horrors that are about to unfold for Britain.
How does Davina react to that?
It confirms for Davina that Andrea is, well, different, either prophetic or perhaps deeply unwell, but it solidifies Andrea's status as someone out of time.
But this connection with Davina, it doesn't end well, does it?
No, it ends tragically and abruptly. Andrea wakes up one night and Davina is dead beside her. The diary describes her lips as being blue as a sweet wrapper. It's sudden, unexplained, and it throws Andrea right back into fear and isolation.
It really underscores the danger and instability of her situation. Is this connected to the larger pattern?
It feels like it. It shows that interacting with the displaced can be dangerous, perhaps inherently unstable. It fuels Andrea's paranoia, certainly, and it does seem to fit into this wider cyclical problem.
Okay, let's talk about that cycle. We need to jump back to Andrea's original time, around 2008, after she's found the diaries. She encounters other displaced people.
Yes, this is crucial. She meets a woman, Deborah, with 2 children, Thomas and Megan, usually called Meg, and they say they're from 1935.
Displaced from 1935 to 2008. How?
The same phenomenon at Gallows Point, the sparks, the disorientation, only they described it as an earthquake.
So people can jump forward, too. It's not just Andrea falling back.
Exactly, it's bidirectional. 1935 to 2008, 2008 to 1939, it establishes this isn't a one-off event for Andrea, but a recurring temporal storm centered around that location.
Which leads Martin, the writer, who seems to be compiling these sources, to dig deeper into the history.
Right. If it's happening across decades, maybe it happened even earlier. He looks into the history of Gallows Point and finds something extraordinary.
What's that?
A book from 1902, Prospects of Rehabilitation by a Dr. E.M. Lancer. It details the case of one of his patients.
Okay. And who was the patient?
A man named Thomas Dubbett, hanged back in 1867.
Hanged for what?
Not murder. He was deemed mentally ill, essentially for predicting the future. He foretold specific future prime ministers, world wars, even something he called the Great Collapse of our race.
Wow. So potentially another time traveler, or at least someone experiencing temporal displacement effects?
Yeah.
Way back in the 1860s.
It certainly looks that way, but here's the connection that ties it all together, the really stunning part.
Go on.
As Dubbett was facing execution in 1867, he pleaded with Dr. Lancer to get a message to his sister. Her name was Megan.
Megan.
Yeah.
Like the girl displaced from 1935.
Exactly. And Dubbett specified where his sister Megan lived. Portland House in Lyme Regis.
Wait, isn't that the house that Meg, the girl from 1935, eventually inherits in the 2008 timeline?
That's the bombshell, yes. The exact same house.
Right.
A direct link between a man hanged for prophecy in 1867 and a girl displaced from 1935 meeting Andrea in 2008.
That's not a coincidence. That feels engineered.
Yeah.
Like breadcrumbs left across time.
It's the strongest evidence in the sources that this isn't random. It suggests the phenomenon, whatever it is, has been active and perhaps monitored since at least the mid-19th century. The displacements leave traceable markers.
But the most personally devastating twist seems to involve Andrea's own daughter, Linnea. You mentioned the name coincidence earlier.
Yes, the Linnea paradox. It's incredibly cruel. So Andrea's daughter, Andrea Walters, who exists in Andrea's original 2008 timeline, she grows up troubled.
Okay.
And her own diary entries, found later, describe experiences that eerily mirror the traumatic time displacement experiences of her mother, Andrea, back in 1939.
How is that even possible? Is this like generational trauma or something more literal?
It seems more literal, tied into the loop. The later diary of Linnea, the one born in the displaced 1918 timeline, mentions her childhood memory of seeing a scratched message on a doorframe in her home.
What message?
I love you, Mum.
And
Andrea, during her desperate, isolated time in 1939, scratched that exact message onto a doorframe.
oh my God. So the daughter, born years later in that altered timeline, grew up seeing the physical evidence of her mother's future past trauma.
Precisely. The mother's suffering in 1939 created a permanent feature in the daughter's childhood environment decades later within that same altered past. It implies her life, her potential trauma, was set from the start.
There's no escaping the loop. It feeds itself. Utterly bleak.
It suggests the suffering isn't just a side effect. It might be part of the mechanism.
Which brings us finally to Andrea's last recorded experience, another jump.
Yes. She confronts the phenomenon again at Gallows Point, and this time it's violent. She wakes up not in 2008, not in 1939, but somewhere completely new.
Sure.
on a vessel called the Sallington, and the year she's told is 2034.
2034.
Yeah.
So she's jumped even further forward. Who's there?
She finds Megan Martin, the writer. They're married now, living in this future. The whole place feels hyper-modern, sterile.
And how does she find out the year and what's going on?
A nurse tells her, very casually, and the nurse mentions that Andrea's body has been washed.
Washed. What does that mean in this context? It sounds clinical.
It is. According to other parts of the source material, washed means cleansed of medication, or specifically cleansed of something called jiggers.
Jiggers. What are they?
The sources describe jiggers as almost like forces of paranoia and psychological distress, maybe a mental illness, maybe something external. It's a bit ambiguous. But Andrea was suffering from them before this jump, and now in 2034, she's apparently been cleaned of them.
So maybe the jumps were related to these jiggers, or an escape from them. But this future, is it the real future, or is something else going on?
That's the final terrifying reveal. It comes from a diary entry apparently written not by a human, but by an entity called Second Degree.
Second Degree?
Yes. It identifies itself as a processing unit, or maybe a clone, created by someone or something called G. And G uses pronouns she/shim/she's.
Okay, so we're dealing with some kind of advanced AI or post-human entity here. What does Second Degree reveal?
It confirms the entire displacement phenomenon was artificial and controlled. It mentions the unmount.
The unmount.
Yes, an action taken by G that canceled any possibility of returning to the past. And crucially, it says the occurrence was destroyed.
The occurrence, meaning the time slip phenomenon itself.
Yeah.
The sparks, the bulk at Gallows Point.
Exactly. G just turned it off, switched off the temporal storm. This reframes everything. It wasn't a natural disaster. It was a feature that could be toggled.
So less time travel paradox, more simulation theory.
That's exactly where it seems to land. The jiggers, the loops, the suffering, it was all contained within this occurrence that G could simply unmount.
And does Andrea find any proof of this herself in 2034?
She does. The final chilling discovery. Hidden behind a cushion, she finds a small remote control-like device.
With buttons.
Yes. Buttons labeled initialize, increase, part from, and stabilize.
Oh, wow. That's blatant.
It confirms her worst fear. She's not just in the future. She's in a future where her reality, maybe all reality she knew, can be manipulated with a remote, designed and controlled by G, who apparently views life as complicated machinery.
Her entire life, the trauma, the loss, potentially just data in an experiment run from 2034.
Looking back, the cost is immense. Linnea's life seemingly predetermined for misery, Andrea's own sanity, the institutionalization, Davina's death, all potentially just collateral damage.
So the key takeaway isn't really how she traveled time, is it?
No, it seems the real horror is why. The discovery that this whole timeline, maybe stretching back to Dubbit in 1867, was being watched, maybe tweaked and ultimately controlled, possibly by this entity G via something called the unmount. It removes agency entirely.
Which leaves us with a deeply unsettling final thought for you, the listener. If this whole horrifying saga, the time jumps, the paradoxes, the mental anguish, was all just part of some vast controlled experiment run by an entity in 2034, does that make the suffering of Andrea, Linnea, Davina, Thomas Dubbit, does it make any of their pain less real?